Welcome back to the Tom Collision channel, everyone. We have an interview for you today with AJ Ziegler, a man who is already flexing at me in a very intriguing way. This is a man who is a wrestler, clearly a bodybuilder, and a documentarian who really has many strings to the bow, and a name I just want to put out there as much as possible as someone who I'm confident will be certainly reaching the airwaves and the earwaves very shortly. AJ, I just want to give you an opportunity to talk about yourself at the moment, to talk about you and who you are for anyone who hasn't seen you before.
Absolutely. Thank you, Tom. I appreciate you giving me the opportunity and the platform to talk with not only yourself, but your audience here today. I'm AJZ. I used to be known as the Golden Boy. I go by the Hunter now because I just felt like where I was at in my career, it was starting to become limited. I was kind of doing this thing that's already been done before. And there's ways to always branch out and do the same thing differently. But I wanted to document what I'm doing in my life and bring a little bit more realism to who I am as a human into the ring, into the social media, and just bring out every aspect of myself. And I just feel like that genuine presentation will translate and pay off a lot better. So that's kind of where I'm at in my career right now. I'm traveling all over the country, setting up an international tour. I was just in Canada for the first time in my life, actually, recently. And I'm going to be going back within the next couple months here. And I'm just traveling around doing the thing, and the hunter's expanding his hunting grounds all over the world. So that's kind of where I'm at.
That is a lovely catchphrase right there. You, of course, know that I can never resist the opportunity to pull back and peel back a few layers of kayfabe. I want to talk a lot about indie wrestling, but you've also got quite a lot of experience in some bigger name promotions, as it were, New Japan Strong, Ring of Honor. You've got some experience to discuss, and I'm interested to dive into those locker rooms and the dynamics. I want to start slightly outside of that, more of a sort of indie fed that got a lot of very positive attention and a lot of eyes on it when it started out, primarily because of names involved like EC3 and Braun Strowman. You've worked with Control Your Narrative. Can you talk to me about your experience there?
Yeah, I worked with them. I think, wow, it's almost been 2 years ago now. So that was when Braun Adam was away from the company, away from WWE. So was Cross, carrying Cross, and then obviously EC3 was kind of rebuilding and finding himself again. I actually first met Mike EC3 at that show before that we did an interview prior to, and then we kind of stayed in touch, connected, and then it built into me doing CYN because I've known Braun since I was a little kid. And it was just kind of one of those things where he was doing it, and then I just did it with him. And then, it kind of took off from there. We did a whole lot of cinematic stuff, a whole bunch of cool, different things. Obviously, learning from guys that have been, to the top of the mountain obviously helps. So being in the ring with Braun, being in the ring with EC3, I never got to work Cross. Being in the ring with those guys was not only a good learning experience, but they also did a lot of cinematic stuff, which I honestly took that as like acting experience as well, which is just a whole different way to perform and to work and to fight. So it was a good experience. We traveled all around the country. We had an international tour set up that never actually took place just because a lot of the pieces just went their own ways, right? Because Adam went back to WWE, so did Cross. Obviously, EC3 ended up becoming NWA World Champions. Everything kind of just went in different directions, but we did have something solid set up for a while, and we did do a whole lot of good stuff, and it was an awesome learning experience for me. So I was definitely happy to be a part of that.
See, I always find this sort of thing interesting. There is a lot of overlap between acting and wrestling in general, working with the promos, working with the reactions, a lot of the in-ring psychology. And you can
Yeah.
usually tell if someone's not too experienced of acting when they actually get into a wrestling ring. So I do find areas like the cinematic approach, which was happening quite a lot at that time, to be really intriguing. Now, you have your own YouTube channel. You put up a lot of different work there. A lot of wrestlers just put up their matches, whereas you go a little bit further. Your most popular video is you building yourself a wrestling ring. Is that still up?
Yeah, that's actually at Braun's house. So when he was away from WWE, we spent a whole lot of time training in that ring. There's a few videos on that YouTube channel, my YouTube channel, of us working around in the ring. And yeah, that same ring, it has like a red canvas in that video. I think that has a lot of views. but now has like a white canvas or whatever. But that's actually at Braun's house now. So we moved it over there, and we work in it whenever he's in town, and get some reps in, and I have the opportunity to learn from him. So yeah, the ring's still up. It's just not in the same place. It's inside, and it's shown on the YouTube channel inside of his garage.
Fair enough. You also have a habit of making documentaries and really detailing your experience as a wrestler. I do find these intriguing. Can I ask what made you make that decision?
I kind of going back to how you were saying there's an overlap between wrestling and acting, and it's all about being real and being truthful and being genuine, or at least portraying that. And I just feel like wrestling's all about emotional investment. You can do a million moves, but it doesn't mean anything if there's no emotion behind it. So I feel like when I watch a movie, if you watch Creed, right? If you watch Rocky, those fights mean so much more because you see what Rocky's going through to get to the fight. You see the travel, the trials, the tribulations, all that stuff, right? And then he gets to the fight. So I feel like just adding those documentaries or just giving people a little bit of a peek behind the curtain to see a little bit, but not too much. It's not like a vlog, but it's like a combo vignette kind of deal. I feel like that creates a whole lot more interest and intrigue, and it gets people to understand me as the hunter a whole lot better versus just like, here's a match, here's another match. Just if there's no interwebbing storylines between working in Texas to Canada to California to New York, I can make my own storylines and make them all make sense in my own way, regardless if the promotion or whatever doesn't interlap with each other. So that's kind of the idea.
Do you ever struggle to maintain kayfabe or non-kayfabe when you're making that sort of content?
No, like I said, because there's a lot of sense of realism with what I do. I've taken acting lessons, and I've done that. I've done some movie auditions and stuff like that, but like I'm not a professional actor, so my approach is a lot more based in reality and just bringing out truth to my performance and trying to make it as real as possible within the confines of still being me. So I guess that's a long-winded way of just saying no, because I'm not being anything other than just like myself turned up.
Always
With
seems
a
to be.
little bit of soap opera in there, right? Of course.
You've always got to have a little bit of soap opera in the wrestling after all.
You do.
I want to turn the attention now to some of the promotions that you've worked with. You've worked with Ring of Honor at some point. That involves working with AEW by extension, but not by extension too much. Ring of Honor is kept somewhat separate. This was, of course, while you had big names like Samoa Joe spending a lot of time in Ring of Honor, the arrival of Claudio Castagnoli, etc. A lot of big names have worked with Ring of Honor, both under and not under Tony Khan. When you were working there, was that during Tony Khan's reign?
Yeah. So the recent experience I had with Ring of Honor was a crazy one. I was honestly just gonna go to the show. This is totally transparent. And then I texted Pat Buck and I was like, "Hey, I'll be at the show, whatever." And he was like, "You got your gear?" I was like, "I always do." And then I was booked on the show, and I walked backstage the second before CM Punk was walking through Gorilla. I was probably one of the last people to see him before he walked out. Like he had the shoes over his neck, and he just like nodded at me. And I was like, "Oh shoot!" He was about to walk right through Gorilla and head out on Collision. So yeah, that was quite the experience. It was like a last minute Ring of Honor booking. I show up, they're filming the first ever Collision taping. CM Punk's coming back. The people in Chicago were crazy. It was an insane experience. And the first person I saw when I walked through was CM Punk. I was just like, okay, all right, this is big time. Let's go. So yeah, it was a cool experience, and I'm glad I was able to have that.
So you, in many ways, accidentally worked the big one, the arrival of Collision, the moment when we first saw that overlap. That must be an incredible experience being backstage during that much hype.
Yeah, it was crazy because we're all sitting backstage like watching CM Punk's return promo and like all that stuff, and I don't work there, so I'm just like sitting there not saying a darn word, right? And it was a crazy experience, and it was good to have the opportunity to be there for such a like a wild night. You know what I mean? It's just, there was so many moving pieces, so many things going on. They filmed Ring of Honor at the end of the show, like after Collision, so everyone was already back for their matches, all that good stuff. But yeah, it was a crazy, crazy experience. And like I said, I walked through the building. First person I see is CM Punk right before Cult of Personality. It's like, okay, this is cool. But yeah, it was crazy to be back there and to have that experience on such a crazy night. Because it wasn't just like a Collision. Not that that's not cool in and of itself, but it was like the first ever Collision with, regardless of how you feel about, CM Punk or whatever, this, that, and the third, is just like in and of itself, it was just like a monumental night to be there. So it was just crazy.
Is that something that you would see as a tryout, or was that just an opportunity at that time?
It was just like, uh, you know, another date, another marking in the books. I've stayed in touch with Pat Buck. He used to work obviously at WWE, and I'd like to say he sees something in me, right? So it was just an opportunity to go out there, do what I need to do, turn some heads, and from the sounds of it, I did. And I guess we'll kind of just see where things go from here. But my priority is just, building and branching on what I've already done, and maybe go back or maybe explore other options and just see what opportunities are best for me. Because at the end of the day, you can always say I want to go here, I want to go there, but at the end of the day, it's just a matter of finding what works best for me and where I can provide the most value to someone else. So we'll see what happens. I have no idea, but we'll all find out together, right?
We will. I did want to ask on a related hot button topic. As a wrestler who isn't signed to a WWE or an AEW, someone who's still early in your career with a lot of big days ahead of you, when you see the social media efforts of Tony Khan to promote, I know a lot of fans have had their opinions. I'd love to know some opinions from actual wrestlers who are looking to work with companies like AEW. Does Tony Khan's social media presence in any way affect your desire to work there?
No, I don't understand why the fans. It's very weird, right? So like everyone was just craving for competition for years. It was, WWE is a monopoly, blah 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 blah. And then they finally get an alternative where someone decides that they run their own. I mean, rightfully so. He has a company that he's put his own money into, and he can run it however he wants to run it. And he's finally given people an alternative. Whether you like it or not, it's an alternative. People were crying for that for years. And now they finally got what they wanted. And people, they're like, oh, he shouldn't do this, he shouldn't do that. The way I see it is when those people can voice their opinions as much as they want. And it is what it is, but it's still Tony Khan's baby. It's Tony Khan's company. And Tony Khan can do what he wants to do, and he will do what he wants to do. And I feel like he's shown that, and he doesn't have to run the company the same way that Vince or Triple H runs WWE. He can run AEW how he wants to run AEW, because AEW quite literally is his own financial investment, right? So until we all decide we want to put $1 billion that we all totally have into a company, then I guess it's just for us to either choose to watch it or choose not to, and I guess just go with what he does. But I'm not trying to like ride the fence or anything, but really I feel like that's the truth. It's just like, if you don't like it, don't watch it. If you don't like what he does, don't follow him. But I just see it as he's running his company the way he wants to. And, at the end of the day, people are talking, and this is a business of people talking, and he's doing it. So kudos to him, because we're talking about him right now. As far as I'm concerned,
Absolutely.
that makes you over.
There might be some overlap on this one. I did want to ask, as a predominantly indie wrestler, someone who's worked for a number of different promotions, working to get the name out there, you've worked during the time when AEW launched, when we had NXT UK launching as well. There's been
Yeah.
talk of basically a hoovering up of talent by those different promotions and how that affects the indies. You've got direct experience. Do you think AEW, the relaunch of TNA, the rise of New Japan Strong, do you feel that's
Yeah.
negatively or positively impacted the indie scene?
I think it's definitely positively impacted the indie scene. And I can tell you why. Because in the past, when there was only one company or maybe like two companies that had stars that if they got released, then they could draw for independent companies. that was like the only option back then, right? Now you have guys working for New Japan, Impact, AAA, all over Mexico, all these different places. I should probably say TNA now. But you have all these different companies that allow their stars to work other indies. Well, now those indies are able to draw more because they have bigger name stars on their show, or those kids that are working on indie shows with guys that work at Impact, et cetera, they can get better working experience. So the way I see it is now these independent companies have the opportunity, if they do it right, to bring in stars to theoretically draw more money for their company and capitalize off of, bigger platforms having these stars on their TV, et cetera, and then have their talent that they're trying to build up in their own promotion work with guys that work at Impact, New Japan Strong, AAA, whatever it is. To help build up their own brand. So they can have bigger name stars come in that work with these companies and draw more money and work with their talent. So I see it as a win-win, especially if these guys live close. You don't have to pay for a flight and a hotel and everything else. So I definitely see it as a big plus, especially for us, because we get to work with these guys, and theoretically, if the guys on top draw more seats into the building or more sponsors for online services, like whatever, that's more money for all of us too. So I see it as a big win. I don't see how it could be really a loss, because I guess maybe some guys would be like, oh, these Impact guys are taking our spots away or this or that. But, just get better. You know what I mean? If other guys are coming into your company and taking away your spot, then just get better.
You've mentioned Impact there, now relaunched and rebranded as TNA once again. They've always been one of the best promotions for the development of younger talent. They'd come over to the UK for a few weeks. You'd see a whole host of people from the UK independent scene for a while. They spent some time in Japan. You'd see a whole load of people from the Japan independent. They've always been fantastic there. They just had a very successful relaunch, brought in a number of names, had some rebranding, and showed what they can do and what they can deliver in a world where we do have a WWE and AEW and New Japan Strong and New Japan in general. Lots of very heavy competition. Is this sort of rebrand, is this sort of company intriguing to you as an independent wrestler with aims of going higher?
Yeah, I definitely think so. I grew up as like a TNA kid. I watched it on Spike every week. I saw it as a viable alternative. I know people always say, "Oh, we haven't had competition for WWE since the 90s or whatever." But let's be honest. I mean, there was a time when Impact was doing over 2 million viewers on Spike TV, right? So they've been around, and they found a way to stick around. And I think that rebranding and rebuilding themselves will be an opportunity for them to, go even further and bring in new names, Dolph Ziggler and a bunch of other guys, to help elevate their own talent and then help elevate their brand, and get them rocking and rolling. Because I do think that there is an internet buzz behind them becoming a viable second option. Whether or not that happens or not, I do see them as a competitor in 2024. I don't know if they would exceed AEW. They could, maybe, names. I don't see a reason why they couldn't go even further than where they're at right now.
I just want to take the opportunity here because we've spoken about the different promotions you've worked for. I want to talk about your aims, your objectives, your career heights. What are you aiming for? What's next for AJZ?
My goals are to continue to not only gain work experience, but work with guys that have been to the top of the mountain. And then eventually, by being myself and staying true and authentic to what I believe in and how I work, while staying open-minded and coachable, I believe that doors will open and that I'll continue to even get more opportunities. And to me, there's so much opportunity out there right now. There's so many great companies to work for. Like a TNA is a great company to work for right now. AAA would be a great company there's so many different options out there. New Japan, there's just so many different places to go. And I just feel like this is a time in wrestling where it's not always about rush to get signed to one place exclusively. Like I said, It's about where I can add value and where they can add value to what I'm looking for. And the best way to go about it, in my opinion, is just to keep being me, keep getting more experience, keep working at as many different places as possible, go to Mexico, go to Canada, work at New Japan again, and just keep building myself up, keep providing value to wherever I work. And then whatever happens, happens, wherever wants to lock me down, then so be it. But to me, it's just about working and getting as much experience with as many great people as I can.
Are you intrigued by, for example, the Mustafa Ali World Tour?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's one of those things too. I don't follow everything super closely, but maybe you can has he exclusively signed anywhere, or is he
No,
just
he
kind
has
of
not.
popping up? Okay, so that's what I'm saying. It's like he obviously has a ton of potential, I'm not sure if he felt like he was able to fully realize that when he was in WWE, but now he has this opportunity to showcase what he can do, and he can go a million different places and work a million different people doing a million different things. I don't know of many other times in wrestling where you could really do that. Even in the territory days, you'd kind of work a territory and then leave and then come back. But like the internet wasn't really a thing, obviously. So it was like you kind of disappear and then come back. Now I can watch someone on New Japan and then watch them on Impact and then watch them somewhere else and have all these different matches with all these different stories. And it's just an incredible time to be a wrestler if you're able to get to a point where you're able to work all those different places. So yeah, I think 2024 is going to be a crazy year for him just because he has so much potential, and I think the world's going to see it even more so now.
I can't let you go without asking a question about Dolph Ziggler. You know that I can't let you go without asking a question about Dolph. Dolph Ziggler is embarking on seemingly his own little world tour at the moment under his name, Nick Nemeth, of course, working with a number of different promotions, not exclusively signed anywhere in particular. I have to ask, given that he first appeared in New Japan, and in fact, you appeared in New Japan before him, did you get him the job?
Absolutely. I got Dolph Ziggler his job at New Japan because I'm the first Ziggler to get to New Japan. Maybe. I feel like Nick Nemeth is his way of working around the fact that I'm the first Ziggler that got there, right? He just doesn't want to be the second Ziggler. No, in all seriousness, he definitely is a generational talent that can take anything that anyone gives him and turn it into the best segment on the show. And without a doubt, I know that he's going to have some of the best matches that New Japan has ever seen, ever. And truth be told, I'm just excited as a fan to watch that all unfold because first and foremost, he was one of my favorite wrestlers growing up. And it's just crazy to see that now he has the opportunity to, like I said, do exactly what, Ali's doing. Go a million. I think he just signed with the GCW match, right? With Cardona.
Yep.
So it's like he's going to work GCW. He's going to work TNA. He's going to work New Japan. He's going to work a bunch of different indies. It's just like there's so many opportunities out there for him now, and it's just crazy and cool to see what he does with it. But yeah, I mean, let's be honest, he's the second Ziggler, and he's just trying to use Nemeth to get around that, right? To get to New Japan. But yeah.
I want to say thanks very much for your time, giving you an opportunity now to put yourself over in any way you can. Tell people where they can find you if they've enjoyed this interview.
Absolutely. I'm Andreas John Ziegler, AJZ. I go by the Hunter. I always take what I want. And you can take what you want. You can take a little bit of my Instagram, a little bit of my Twitter, a little bit of my TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok. It's all at AJZiggy1818. Facebook is Team AJZ. YouTube, as Tom mentioned earlier, it's Andreas Ziegler, ANDREASZIEGLER. You can find me on all those platforms. Shoot me a message. Let's get in contact. Promoters, you can always book me. Fans, you can always reach out and talk to me. I'm an open book. Let's get chatting. Let's get talking. Let's do some business.
And if you want to see more interviews, by all means, stay tuned to the Tom Collision channel. In the meantime, thank you very much, AJ. And for everyone watching, we'll see you very soon.
Thank you, Tom.